Good morning, traders, and we are yet another day closer to Christmas, so let's see what goodies are in store for us in the markets. We've been following the Bitcoin, and I made that prediction that we should hopefully be able to hit 20,000 by the end of the year. Even though it had grown so much, we were still sitting on about 17,000, so it didn't look terribly possible. But we can see that after the weekend on Monday, we had a high that came pretty close to the 20,000 mark. We got up to, what's this, about 19,200 and some change, so we might still get to that 20,000 mark. We can see that after the markets jumped over the weekend, it has petered out a little bit again, but this is not a bad thing, because it means that when the market starts turning up, we have the potential for a new crossover entry. So people who aren't in the trade, you might find a good entry to start catching it on the way up. Let's have a look at Ethereum, which has been performing very nicely. Ethereum seems to, after this long pin bar that we spotted, Ethereum seems to be responding very, very well off this line. Again, we have the issue that the markets have never ever been in this place before. So traditional price action where you're looking for support and resistance lines, unfortunately it won't work because we don't have any historical data. So we need to keep looking at fundamentals, keeping an eye on what is happening with the other cryptocurrencies, as well as what people are generally saying. Now, because Bitcoin has grown so much, one of the big problems is that it's difficult for people to now buy into Bitcoin. The larger investment houses, they're all fine, no issues there, but the average person on the street doesn't exactly have, $20,000 just lying around to invest. So we're starting to see these newer and smaller cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and LiteCoin are starting to pick up quite a lot of movement. Ethereum especially has done fantastically well since the weekend. Here you can see we had the gap here over the weekend, and it has basically just shot all the way up. Now, there is no specific place that we can look for an entry. If I were to apply stochastic, I can almost guarantee you that it's overbought, so our regular technical analysis is not going to work. So if you were to enter a trade on this, enter it small, make sure it's as small as you possibly can trade, and that you have a stop loss which isn't going to wipe out if it goes the other way. But there is still a huge potential for profit off of this. I will most likely be watching this on the smaller time frames, waiting for one of these type of entry points. See, on the 30-minute, we still have the situations where the market comes down and goes up, and it goes up higher than it was. Then it comes down a bit, and then it goes up a lot more, then down a bit, then up, then down, then up. So I would wait for another down. I would apply the strategy that we learned in the online course where we have the moving average crossover system with the MACD and stochastics. And I would look for a potential entry off the 30-minute or even the 15-minute chart based on that strategy, because I don't really have anything else to work off because we don't have any historical data. But that strategy has been doing quite well with these currencies. Let's have a quick look at the LiteCoin. LiteCoin has had a very interesting time. Last week we saw it was actually dropping a fair bit. It came off this level across here, and we were watching this as a potential level that we need to look out for. And surely enough, it actually bounced right off. It's been going up considerably well over the last day or two, and even on the 30-minute we can see some nice movements happening here. On the 4-hour we do see this short forming here, but when we look at the 30-minute, it seems to be a temporary down, so we could expect another long position coming up. So again, this sort of strategy, we would apply the crossover strategy, and we would wait for an entry in a long position. Again, we don't have a lot of historical data because you can see that the price has never really been here before. Okay, it was here recently, but the markets, this huge space here is blank. So we don't have a lot of support and resistance lines to work off. So I'm going to be sticking with my technical analysis as well as keeping my eye on the news and market sentiment. As long as there is still faith in the general community that cryptocurrencies are going to increase in value, then these are very likely going to continue as bullish trades. If you are not in a position to hop in on something like Bitcoin, I really recommend you consider Ethereum. A lot of people are moving across to LiteCoin because LiteCoin has actually performed extremely well recently. Here we can see clearly on the daily growth that in just the last few days from this point here, so just the last week, LiteCoin has moved more than it has in the last several weeks. So even this one day's movements was substantially larger than any of the other movements it's had before. So people have benefited greatly from LiteCoin. So if you are interested in the cryptos and you're not in a position to buy Bitcoins, consider Ethereum and LiteCoin. They are going to be the next big fast moving things. In fact, they already are the big moving fasting things. So if you don't have enough to invest in Bitcoin at the moment, you should really be looking at Ethereum and LiteCoin. And keep in mind, because we don't have a lot of historical data, the traditional price action where we're looking at support and resistance lines are not going to work. So go ahead and apply the strategy that we used in the online course. It has been doing pretty well on these cryptocurrencies. It is a little more tricky to read stochastic because these movements are so big. But I find if you're running a 10-3-3, not the 5-3-3 that MetaTrader defaults at, but 10-3-3, it seems to smooth it out and give us a more reliable stochastic reading. These are the settings that we teach in the online course, so just load up the template, put it over, and see what happens.